All right, you've seen the product. Now it's time to take action. It's all about that miracle food. My man Chakra Doctor has put some of the greatest superfoods on the planet here in one bottle for you. I know we see COVID going crazy and a lot of different things, testing our immune system. This right here is a perfect cleanse and reboot. Great for the immune system and a great anti-inflammatory. Miracle food. Tell them Viral Hip Hop News sent you. Let's go.
Now, man. So I just want to get right into it. So yesterday we had a conversation about Quando Rondo and his conversation with Angela Yee. And just to kind of use him as a focal point, we see these young kids in hip hop and we see what they're going through. We see the violence that they're going through on the phones and what I don't really even know what to call it. I know we had our time and what we listened to in music and definitely had our period, but today seems a little more in depth. And I called them prisoners of war, so to speak. What do you think about the current climate in hip hop and what's going on with the youth and what they're dealing with, not only with social media, but in the streets and with the money and everything like that?
I believe that I believe that hip hop has always been a direct reflection of where we are culturally. And I think we spend so much time focusing on these children, and it's not the children, it's us. Similar to what our parents did by sitting us in front of video games, by sitting us in front of the television and running off and chasing an American dream that was never meant for them. I believe we did that in hip hop. You know, Big Crit was the one who actually showed me this, like, and Salih Robinson from my podcast, from the David Banner podcast. He was like, if you really think about J. Cole's generation, Kendrick Lamar's generation, Big Crit generation, there was only a few people that came from that generation because we didn't properly pass the time. So you have so many outlets that sit back and point their finger at these children instead of helping to raise them. We sit back and point at our children as if they're not our children. Our kids are a direct reflection of what we did or did not teach or do for them. So I think instead of looking at people from the outside, we should do more to protect and more to teach. Man, a lot of these kids, man, they wish that we would come in the studio with them, bro. Like, I'm starting to find that out now, that from a producer standpoint, I'm getting the opportunity to spend more time with these kids. It's like they were just put in front of a camera with no understanding. We didn't sign them. We were, and in the case of the South, what happened with us is that we didn't have nobody to really show us the business game. So we were just working to try to figure this game out. But what ended up happening was we left a gap in the music industry, and most people didn't properly pass the baton. So a lot of these kids are out there by themselves, man. When I went up to Ferguson, I remember the things that most of the revolutionaries that were outside in Ferguson, they're from the ages of 15 to about 24. And the thing that them kids kept saying, where's our elders? Like, as soon as the sun goes down and as soon as the CNN leaves, like, they leave. Wow. I think, bro, it's not their responsibility to come to us. They are the children. We are supposed to come to them. Fact. My opinion.
Fact. You were talking about Offset reaching out to you at a point in his life, and you made an analogy that, a lot of these guys in the street, they really just want somebody to go talk to, but they take their anger out in other ways. They kind of say fuck you because nobody's reaching down to them. Can you talk about Offset reaching out to you and that whole dynamic with the elders and the youth as well?
Well, no, he didn't reach out to me. What happened was I was driving down the street and I saw him.
Okay.
And I was like, yo, and he was like, OG. So he said, come over, and I pulled over, and then we just sat and talked for a minute. And like, he just basically was like, yo, like, bro, I want to do better. I don't know how to. He's like, I just don't know how. And I remember that feeling with my father. My father used to always tell me, man. And like, that's the difference between me and a lot of entertainers is I had a father in my house. My father did not play. As a matter of fact, up until my father got brain and lung cancer, I don't know, and I'm pretty good with my hands. I don't know if I could have ever taken my father physically up until he got sick. I always had a strong role model in my house. So the thing was, I used to tell my dad that, like, my dad would tell me to do stuff, and I was like, Dad, I just don't know how to do it. Show me better. And it's so crazy, you know. And this is not just about the kids. This is about us too. And I'm speaking of myself too. We go and elect, or we'll get the most hood artist in the whole wide world, and that's the person that we elect as our spokesperson in hip hop. But then we expect them, if something goes wrong with the water in our city, we expect them to be chemists. If you know, when it's time for politics, we expect them to be able to debate with politicians. But you didn't deem Talib Kweli, you didn't deem Killer Mike the leader of, you know, we expect something out of these kids and out of these rappers that they didn't sign up for. And it's really not fair. You know, a lot of times and our generation should take responsibility over that. That's one of the only regrets that I have in my hip hop life, is that we ushered to these kids money over everything. And then we got mad when they chose money over everything.
Yeah. So with that being said, how do we get a stronghold over it? Because now we're sitting here as middle-aged men with children, with boys, with sons and daughters, but sons in particular. How do we get the stronghold back onto it so we don't continue to see the stuff and the shit that we're still seeing?
You just do what you can. You just do what you can when you can. Like, man, I just did, you know, and I know you know this because that's where the Offset thing came from. I just did the 85 South podcast, man.
Yeah.
And bro, those kids came from everywhere. I mean, a lot of them kids are like, we didn't even know who you were. Like, but like we want to learn. We want to learn. And I got so many DMs from people who's like, well, since you talking to the rappers, come talk to me. Yeah. And just offer yourself. Let people know that you're open. And you know, just in you all's podcast, man, I know that it's more popularized and we get instant hits from being drama filled. But no bullshit, man. This is something that hurts me, bro. 90% of everything that's connected with hip hop destroys hip hop. And I'm talking about whether it's the hip hop sites, the podcasts, the rappers, the producers. It's like we say that we hip hop, but we hate each other. Mm-hmm. Like we don't build with each other. We don't. Okay, it's cool if we beefing, but why when somebody attack a hip hop artist, especially when there's no proof, we condemn that artist before. I mean, even quicker than the white folks do. Mm-hmm. You know, and so what we can do. I just talked about this on Instagram this morning. When I went up to Ebony and Jet magazine, they told me the history of Ebony and Jet, and one of the elders pulled me to the side. He said, David Banner, it was as much sexual deviance, as much drama and music back when our parents and grandparents were in it. It was just an unsigned law that there's some stuff that we wasn't going to report about. Some stuff we ain't got to put on Front Street. Some stuff we shouldn't put on cameras. You know, people spend so much time with cameras in their faces when you could have stopped it yourself. Why you going to go report it to somebody else? Put the phone down and help. Mm-hmm. You know, so the thing that we can do to get a stronghold on our culture is stop complaining about where hip hop is and do something with the control that we have right now. I want you all to think about this. Mm-hmm. I have this saying that if we wanted to clean the earth up, right, we could clean up 70% of the earth if everybody who owned something or lived in some place went just in their yard and picked up the paper in their yard. If you own a business, just pick up the paper in front of your business. Is if everybody did their part inherently and just stepped outside of where they live. If people would just take care of their kids, like don't worry about nobody else's kids. Don't worry about nobody else's city. Don't worry about nobody else's block. Most of these grown-ups who criticize these kids, they scared to talk to the kids that's on their block. Man, when the pandemic first happened, bro, these kids I would make the black kids come sit on my steps. I never forget, man. That's when my clothing line had just blew up. I came and brought my shoes out. I came and brought my t-shirt out. And I told him I made this.
Man, this is Sam Ant, CEO of Viral Hip Hop News. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of y'all who are going to check out this documentary. Shout out to my man Lonnie Fresh. Do me a favor, go to YouTube right now. Go subscribe to Viral Hip Hop News, one of the best hip hop platforms out here right now. We also have The Hub, Hip Hop News Uncensored, of course, the podcast, the baddest podcast out, the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. We drop 7 days a week, doing this thing 100% independent.
There was not one day that I was at work on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that I wished I was somewhere else.
Now let's talk about the Players Club, because you, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that's like your first major role in a movie, right?
Taking over the game. Sincerely appreciate each and every one of y'all. You can grab merch on the YouTube site. You can talk to me on there and much more. Sam Ant, CEO of Viral Hip Hop News. Appreciate each and every one of y'all.
Oh God, you the man, Cass. I spit white like a clan mask, and I'm a hustler.